Night has settled gently over Honfleur, a sleepy coastal town on the Normandy shore. The narrow cobbled street outside glistens under the soft glow of old street lamps, each puddle catching a scatter of golden light. A fine mist of rain has been falling for hours, tapping lightly against the window panes and rooftops. The air is cool and smells of damp stone and salt, a mix of rain-soaked cobblestones and the nearby sea. In the stillness, I can hear the distant hush of the tide in the harbor, its rhythm steady and reassuring in the darkness. From my small attic room at the inn, I gaze through wavy glass at the scene below. Through the window's warped reflection, I see the outlines of centuries-old houses leaning together like close friends sheltering from the drizzle. Their facades, clad in weathered timber and slate, blur softly in the mist, faintly illuminated by lamps hung beside wooden shutters. Across the street, a single shop sign sways slightly in the breeze, its hinges creaking in a familiar lullaby. Everything is hushed and still. The usual daytime bustle has long faded, leaving only the patter of rain and the faint sigh of night wind through the alley. I wrap a warm knitted shawl around my shoulders and breathe in the night. The wool carries a subtle scent of cedar from the wardrobe, mixed with a ghost of rosemary from the herb garden out back. Breathing slow and deep in this quiet hour calms my heart. I close my eyes for a moment and listen. In the distance, the old church bell tower softly chimes the hour, a muffled, velvety sound absorbed by the fog. I count the chimes without thought. 1, 2. It must be midnight. Each tone fades gently into the night, leaving a peaceful silence in its wake. It's in moments like this, in the hush between those bell chimes, that memories drift back to me most vividly. Here, in Honfleur, every corner, every salt-tinged breeze carries a fragment of you. I can almost sense you here with me now. I imagine for an instant that if I turned around, I might find you standing just behind me, smiling in that quiet way you had, as if you were afraid any louder joy might disturb the magic of the evening. Of course, when I do turn, there's no one, only the faint flicker of the oil lamp I've left on the table, and my own shadow stretching across the wooden floor. Still, the feeling of your presence lingers, warm and bittersweet. I decide I won't sleep just yet. There is a restlessness in me tonight, a gentle pull from the rain-washed streets below, inviting me out into memory. Slipping on my coat and well-worn boots, I silently let myself out of my room and down the narrow creaking staircase, careful not to wake the innkeeper dozing at his desk downstairs. The front door opens with a soft sigh, and I step out under the cover of the eaves. Rain drips from the edge of the roof in a steady curtain. I pause there a moment, hood up, allowing my eyes to adjust to the dim glow outside. The night air greets me with a cool kiss on my cheeks. I begin to walk, unhurried, down the familiar lane. With each step on the glistening cobblestones, water splashes lightly around my soles. The sound joins the quiet symphony of rainfall around me. The world feels wonderfully empty, not deserted in a lonely way, but peacefully vacant, like a stage set just for me and my recollections. Shop windows are dark, their displays just silhouettes behind rain-streaked glass. In one window, I faintly see the outline of old books stacked haphazardly, and I recall how you used to stop here at that very shop, drawn to the leather-bound journals and sea-worn maps on display. How many times did we linger there, peering in and dreaming aloud of stories we could write, voyages we might take. A few steps more, and I reach the end of the lane, where it opens onto the old harbor. The vieux bassin, as the locals call it, lies ahead, the small rectangular harbor basin that has been the heart of this town for centuries. Tonight it is especially enchanting, dressed in the light rain and mist. Moored sailboats and fishing vessels bob ever so gently in the dark water, their masts swaying, causing ropes to groan quietly against wooden spars. The rain dimples the black mirror of the harbor, blurring the reflections of the buildings and the scattered lights around the quay. I walk along the quay slowly, under the warm glow of a few antique lamps that line the water's edge. Each lamp casts a trembling path of light on the wet stones underfoot. I follow these little pools of luminance as if they are stepping stones guiding me through time. Across the harbor, the tall, narrow houses of Honfleur stand in a quiet row. Even at this late hour, a few windows still glow with life. Perhaps a painter at work or a sailor's wife waiting for dawn. Their light dances on the water's surface, stretching toward me in wavy golden lines. The scent of the sea is stronger here by the harbor, mingled with brine and a faint memory of fish from the market stalls earlier in the day. I breathe it in and recall a morning long ago when we strolled here hand in hand. The market was lively then, vendors calling out the day's catch, you laughing as you insisted on choosing the plumpest oysters for our supper. I remember how the early sun lit your hair that morning, and how later that day we shucked those oysters in the little kitchen of our rented cottage, squeezing lemon and sharing them fresh and cold. We toasted with cider from a local apple orchard, your eyes shining over the rim of your glass. That was springtime, and the town was full of life and color. Now it is autumn, and everything has gone quieter, but the ghost of that vibrant day lives on here, overlapping the present like a double exposure in my mind. A light breeze brings me back to the now, cool and a little stronger than before. It pushes the drizzle in under my hood, speckling my face with tiny cold kisses. I pull the hood a bit lower and tuck my chin down. As I do, my gaze falls upon a particular bench by the water. A simple wrought-iron bench beneath a street lamp, the very one where we once sat watching the boats. I approach it and run my fingers along the damp wooden slats. In my memory, it is a bright summer evening. We are there on that bench together, shoulder to shoulder. I can almost feel the warmth of that day, despite the chill of the present night. We sat for hours, quietly content, watching the comings and goings in the harbor, the cheerful hellos of fishermen returning with their catch, children chasing each other along the quay, the distant strains of an accordion being played for coins by the cafe. On that summer night, as the sun set late and golden over the water, you rested your head on my shoulder. I remember you humming a tune, that old lullaby your mother used to sing. I never knew the words, but the melody was soothing and sweet. I find myself humming it now, under my breath, here in the drizzle. The notes come out faint and trembling in the cool air, mingling with the patter of rain. It's as though the past and present are melding. The quiet harbor of tonight with the memory of that music from years ago. My eyes prick with a hint of tears, not of sadness exactly, but of a tender kind of longing. I blink them away gently. A drop of rain rolls down my face, tracing the path a tear might take. I let out a slow exhale and continue on, leaving the bench and that precious memory behind for now. As I continue along the quay, a familiar shape appears in the mist ahead, the old carousel by the waterfront. Tonight it stands silent and still, its brightly painted horses and carriages glistening with moisture under the lone street lamp. In summer, that carousel would be turning merrily, cascading cheerful organ music into the evening air as children laughed. I remember one warm festival night when you convinced me to ride it with you. We climbed onto one of the ornate carriages and held on as it spun us round and round beneath a blur of golden lights. We laughed like kids, feeling carefree and giddy, waving at the townsfolk on each rotation as if we too were part of the carousel's magic. Now, in the stillness of this night, the carousel stands like a forgotten jewel, music and lights asleep, but the memory of that joyful ride twirls in my mind. I smile at the thought and carry that gentle warmth with me as I move on. The soles of my boots carry me further along the quay until I near the corner by the old lieutenancy building, an ancient stone structure that guards the harbor mouth. Here, I turn onto a dimmer path that leads toward the beach and the open sea beyond the protective walls of the basin. The beach is mostly pebbles and dark sand, glistening under the faint silver light diffusing through the low clouds. The sea stretches out beyond, invisible in the night, but I hear it. Calm waves meeting the shore in a slow, repetitive hush. Hardly anyone comes here at this hour. In daylight, you might see a few painters with easels capturing the changing Norman light or children searching for shells. But now it's just me, and my footsteps crunch quietly on the wet sand and pebbles. I wander a little way onto the beach until the harbor lamps are a distant glow behind me, and I'm enveloped in a deeper solitude. The ocean's voice is a touch louder here, though still gentle. A faint mist hovers above the ground, and with each breath I take, I taste salt and the cool of the night. I close my eyes again and simply listen to the water, to the rain, and to the echo of your voice in my mind. How clearly I recall one drizzly afternoon when we escaped here to the beach, just like this, to be alone. It was early autumn then, as it is now. We had bundled up in thick sweaters, determined that a little weather wouldn't keep us inside. The town behind us was bustling with a weekend market, but we wanted the quiet. We walked along this very stretch of shore, our shoes leaving pared prints in the damp sand. There was a light mist, just enough to bead in your hair like tiny pearls. I remember laughing quietly as I brushed raindrops from your eyelashes. You caught my hand and held it against your cheek for a moment. We talked about everything and nothing. Future dreams, the books we were reading, the way the light on the water made us both feel something almost holy. When a stronger shower finally chased us back toward the town, we ran, breathless and laughing, until we found shelter under the awning of a closed cafe. Out of breath and huddled together, we watched the sudden downpour turn the world silver. Then, impulsively, you kissed me, a sweet, rain-spiced kiss that warmed me to my toes. I swear I can feel that warmth now. as I stand here alone with the light rain around me. A shiver passes through me, part chill, part emotion, and I realize my hands have gone cold. I rub them together and decide to leave the beach, stepping away from the whispers of the waves and back toward the glow of the harbor lamps and the embracing arms of the old town. Retracing my steps along the cobbles, I pass the lieutenancy building again, its stone archway dark and dripping. Instead of returning along the quay, I turn up another narrow street that leads toward the center of town, toward the old church of Sainte Catherine. The street rises gently uphill. On either side, crooked timber-framed houses crowd close. Their upper floors jut out over the street, nearly touching the neighbors opposite. Under one gutter spout, water spills in a tiny cascade into a mossy trough. I remember how once on a summer day we took this route and you walked on ahead, deliberately stepping under that spill of water with a yelp when you found it colder than expected. I laughed, and you laughed with me, shaking out your damp hair like a mischievous puppy. Tonight, that memory brings a faint smile to my lips. I can almost see you there, just a pace ahead of me, daring and playful. As I approach the church square, the space opens up. The rain is letting up a little. Now, only a fine drizzle, almost a heavy mist. In the square stands the old wooden church of Sainte Catherine, one of Honfleur's prides, built by shipwrights centuries ago. Its wooden bell tower stands apart, reaching into the mist. I pause here, feeling the sacred silence of the place. The doors are closed at this hour, of course, but I remember stepping inside with you once, on a much sunnier day. You were curious about the church's wooden beams that resemble an upturned ship's hull. We stood in the cool, incense-scented air inside that day, hands entwined, gazing up at the craftsmanship and the dappled colors of light filtering through the stained glass. You whispered that it felt like being inside a ship sailing toward heaven. That made me smile then, and it makes me smile now. I offer a silent prayer of thanks in the darkness. For that day, for that memory, for you. There's a carved stone bench under the eaves of a nearby building facing the church. I take a seat for a moment, resting. The journey through town has been short in reality, but in my mind I've wandered years. My legs welcome the pause. The rain has almost stopped now, only a few lingering droplets coming down, so I slip back my hood. The cool, misty air immediately kisses my slightly damp hair and face. I tilt my head up to feel it, closing my eyes. In the stillness, I hear a steady dripping from the church's eaves and the distant breath of the sea breeze through trees on the hill. Sitting here, my thoughts drift to the one memory I have avoided touching too directly all evening. The day I lost you. Not lost in the sense of not knowing where you are, but the day we said goodbye and our paths diverged. Even now, years later, the echo of that parting lingers as a dull ache in my chest. But tonight has been so gentle, filled with the comforting presence of our happier times, that I feel brave enough, or perhaps peaceful enough, to remember that day without breaking. It was, fittingly, a rainy morning as well. I remember waking to the sound of rain on the roof on what I already knew would be our last day together in Honfleur. We had spent a final glorious summer here, trying to pretend it would never end. But autumn had come. and with it, your journey onward to a life I couldn't follow. There were no harsh words, no dramatic fight, just the quiet understanding that the chapters of our lives were leading us in different directions. You had an opportunity abroad, a dream you needed to chase, and I was rooted to this place, bound by family and responsibility. We both knew it, yet those weeks we stole out of time felt suspended and special, as if we lived in a lovely bubble the outside world could not penetrate. That morning, the bubble finally had to burst. I recall how we packed your bags in near silence, the sounds of zippers and buckles unbearably loud in the little cottage. We made coffee and sat at the small kitchen table, trying to memorize each other's faces in the gray light. When the time came, we walked slowly to the station where a coach would take you away. The rain had lightened to a light sprinkle by then. I remember the way you looked at me under your umbrella, your eyes full of tears that refused to fall. I'm sure I tried to smile for you, to be strong, though my heart was breaking. We stood close, holding hands tightly. You pressed a small seashell into my palm, one we had found together on the beach weeks before. So, you won't forget, you whispered, as if I ever could. The coach arrived with a hiss of brakes and a puff of diesel, so at odds with the quiet world of our farewell. We embraced one last time, a hug in which we tried to pour every unspoken word of love, gratitude, and longing. I felt your tears warm on my neck, or perhaps they were mine. In that moment it was impossible to tell. Then you were gone, boarding with reluctant steps. I stayed rooted in place as the coach pulled away. You waved through the window, and I waved back with a brave hand, the other clutched around the little shell in my coat pocket. I stood there long after the bus disappeared into the fog, until the rain finally drove me home. When I open my eyes now, I realize a tear has indeed slipped down my cheek, but I do not wipe it away. It is not a bitter tear, just a gentle acknowledgement of that moment and all it meant. I reach into my coat pocket here on this bench by the church, and there it is, smooth and small, a white spiral shell polished by time. I carry it with me still, wherever I go. I turn it between my fingers, feeling the ridges that my thumb knows by heart. In the dim light, I can just make out its pale whirl in my palm. It comforts me, as it always has, a piece of the past that I can touch, warm from my body heat, tangible and real. Eventually, I rise from the bench. The night has deepened, and a greater stillness is all around. The drizzle has stopped completely, leaving the town glistening and dripping. Clouds still blanket the sky, so the night remains dark, but I sense it is very late, perhaps only a couple of hours until dawn. My body is growing pleasantly tired from the walking and the emotions. It will be good to rest soon. I make my way back through the winding streets toward my inn. Honfleur sleeps, and I tread as if walking through someone's dream, perhaps my own dream. The houses watch me pass with their many shuttered eyes. My footfalls echo faintly until I reach the inn's door. It's unlocked as I left it, and I slip inside, latching it gently behind me. The innkeeper's lamp is now extinguished, and the only illumination is the faint gray that seeps through the windows from the misty night. I tiptoe up the old stairs to my room once more. Inside, the air is a little cool. I light the small stove in the corner, coaxing a flame to life, It crackles softly, sending a welcome warmth through the room and casting dancing shadows on the sloped ceiling. I drape my damp coat on a wooden peg and set my boots by the hearth to dry. In the mirror above the washstand, I catch a glimpse of myself, a little tired, a little wistful, and I see behind my eyes the reflection of all those memories we shared. There is a softness there that you left in me. I have never lost it, just as I never lost you from my heart. I change into a dry, worn soft nightshirt and woolen socks, then pour a cup of chamomile tea from a thermos I left steeping. The tea is still warm and fragrant. I carry it to the armchair by the window. Settling into the chair, I drape the shawl over my lap and take a slow sip. Outside, the rain has started up again, but only the faintest drizzle, just enough to tickle the roof. The window is cracked open an inch, and the fresh, damp air carries the ever-present hush of the sea. Before me on the small side table lies my journal, the leather-bound one I bought from that little bookshop by the harbor years ago. Its pages are well worn, filled with sketches of boats and snatches of poetry, many inspired by you. I open it now to a blank page. For a long moment, I simply listen to the night, wondering how to put this feeling into words. Then, slowly, I begin to write. I write about the harbor tonight, the light rain, the echo of footsteps that sounded like ours. I write about the bench and the lullaby you hummed. I write about the sea mist on the beach and a kiss that still warms me. And I write about a small shell pressed into a parting hand. An object so ordinary, yet so precious it carries an ocean of meaning. The words flow gently, without rush. This isn't for anyone else's eyes, just a letter to myself, perhaps, or to you, wherever you are out in the world. By the time I stop, my tea is finished and my eyes are heavy. I close the journal and feel a calmness settling over me. Writing it all down hasn't extinguished the memories. Instead, it feels as though I've invited them to stay, to be at peace here with me. I rise and place the journal aside. Finishing my nightly ritual, I extinguish the oil lamp, leaving just the faint light of pre-dawn filtering in. I slip into bed under a soft quilt that smells faintly of lavender. The pillow welcomes my head and I sink into it, releasing a long, contented sigh. I am tired now, in the best way, tired and calm, like the sea after a gentle tide. In the silence, I realize the rain has finally stopped. Only a single drip from the eaves outside marks the passing seconds with a slow, steady rhythm. I notice the stillness, and it too is comforting. I think of you once more, sending a silent hope that wherever you are, you're safe, happy, perhaps even thinking of me in this same moment. My eyes drift closed. In the darkness behind my eyelids, the images of the day, the lamplit harbor, the old church, the carousel, your smile, all sway and shimmer as if reflected in calm water. They will be there in my dreams, I know, just as they have been so often. But tonight there is no sharp pain in recalling them, only sweetness. Time has gently transformed the sorrow into something akin to gratitude. As I hover on the edge of sleep, I hear a distant sound. The first bird, perhaps, heralding the approaching dawn from somewhere among the rooftops. Morning will come soon. A pale light will touch the mist, and a new day will begin. and I will carry on with you still living in my heart, part of every step I take. For now, though, I am drifting like a boat on the gentle harbor tide. In this beloved town of memories, I allow myself to rest. The ache of what was and the glow of what remains settle together within me, like two old friends watching over me as I finally slip into deep, peaceful sleep.